So let's look at the circumference. Oops, I'm on the wrong slide. Circumference and area of circles here. And first we need to talk about the anatomy of a circle. So there's two parts on a circle. The first part is the diameter, and that goes all the way across, right through the middle. It cuts the circle in half. The radius starts at the middle and connects it to the outer part of the circle. So I guess outside the circle is probably not technically correct, because outside the circle would be out here. It connects it to the circle. So it connects the middle to the circle. So the other thing we need to talk about is the number pi. And you've probably seen this if you're at this point in geometry. Pi is an irrational number you get when the circumference is divided by the diameter of any circle. So every single circle, when you take the diameter and divide it by the circumference, and we'll talk about what circumference is in a minute, you get about 3.14159, and it just keeps repeating on and on and on. So the symbol is this number, pi, and whenever you see this symbol, think about 3.14. Okay, so on to area and circumference. So the circumference is the distance around a circle. So in other words, it's the perimeter of the circle. So if you're talking about perimeter of other shapes, the circumference is the perimeter of our circle. So the formula for circumference is 3.14 blah 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 blah, so pi times diameter. And sometimes you'll see it as 2 pi r, and the reason they write it this way is because it's 2 radiuses equals 1 diameter. So if we kind of underline 2 radiuses is the same as just 1 diameter. So you might see it as 2 pi r or pi times diameter. Okay, so here I've got an example. It says, what's the circumference of the circle at the left in exact form and rounded to the nearest hundredth? So let's talk about what those mean. But first, let's calculate the circumference. So the circumference, we said, is pi times diameter. I typically write down the formula and then I'll fill in what I know. So the diameter on this shape is not 6. 6 is the radius, so that means that we would go 6 and 6. So the diameter here is 12. So it'd be pi times 12. Okay? So, the circumference, there's two ways to write it. One is 12 pi, and it'd be 12 pi inches, and this is called the exact form. Exact is where you don't actually type it into your calculator, you just write 12 times pi. The rounded form we're actually going to type into our calculator. So let me clear out what we were doing here. And so we're going to do pi times and then 12. And we get about 37.699. I said round to the nearest hundredth, that's 2 decimal places. So this would round up to 37.70. So our circumference is approximately 37.70 inches, and this is our rounded answer. So depending on what you're doing, what the instructions are on your assignment, if it says exact answers, you just leave it without typing in your calculator. If it's rounded, then you actually type it in your calculator and figure out what it is. Okay, so let's look at the area. And the area is the number of square units a circle covers. So the area is all this shaded stuff. And the formula for the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So whatever our radius is, we take that to the second power and then times it by this magical number pi. So this is like the same problem. It says what's the area of the circle at left in exact form and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So the area of this circle, and it's still a radius of 6, is pi times radius squared. So the area is going to be pi times 6 squared. And so 6 squared is 36. That's 6 times 6. So it'd be 36 pi inches squared. our units squared. So this is our exact answer. So if it asks for exact form, you'd write it like this. If it asks for rounded, then we'll pull up our calculator and we'll do 36 times pi. So 36 times pi. And we get 113.097. So it has to round to 2 decimal places. The 7 would round this up and it'd be 113.10. So our rounded answer is 113.1 inches squared. Okay, so that's it. That's how to find the circumference and area of a circle.